Welcome to the Homegrown Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Hazelmeyer, along with my husband, Joey.
Good morning.
And together we hope to educate, inspire, and equip you in your pursuit of true nourishment. Today's episode is kicking off a new mini-series. I love this. I'm so excited. We're calling it Back to Basics because, one, the new year is right around the corner, which is always a wonderful opportunity for a reset. But two, we are realizing, like, the deeper we get into our real food journey and just the space of content creation, we don't want to leave behind folks who are just at the starting line. And so this is really going to be like a dialed in series of, hey, if we were to sit down and give you the basics of some of these concepts that we've been talking about for years, these are going to be short, really digestible episodes. We're going to hit singular topics like protein, fitness, homeschooling, non-toxic homes, like these things that I feel like are the biggest needle movers.
Yeah.
Biggest.
Reading food labels.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to add to this is that complexity is oftentimes the enemy of progress.
Ooh, that's good.
And so when you are on your real food journey, it can be the most exciting sometimes. Like, this might not be the most exciting episode, but it might be the one you need to hear the most.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most exciting episodes are the ones where we're diving into the nitty gritty of different hormonal imbalances based off different nutritional additives and what managing your glucose looks like, and some of the tech and data that can help support those activities. And what you really need to do is talk about, what are you eating for breakfast?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So kick us off here. We're going to talk about protein today.
Protein. Yeah. Let's talk about why. First and foremost, I focus on protein for several reasons. Number one, in our current culinary culture, okay, carbohydrates and fat are just much more readily available.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a very carb heavy world. We truthfully do. And it's honestly, it's our natural leaning, our natural craving. Who doesn't love waking up in the morning and the idea of like a muffin and a cup of coffee? I mean, I love that. So because it is outside of our sort of standard, I think it needs a heavier emphasis to make sure that we're actually hitting a protein goal. The other reason is that of the three macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fats, protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It's also the one where the American public tends to underconsume the most. So again, we need to err on the side of heavily focusing on it just to hit our baseline. And it's one of the most misunderstood items. I think for so long we've been told oh, don't worry about it. Recommended daily allowance is, in the 60, grams per day. And we're just realizing after conversations with so many practitioners and doctors and wellness experts that recommendation is just so wrong.
Not to mention, if we're honest, 60 grams a day for a lot of people would probably be an improvement.
Yeah.
So we think that the advice that most folks are receiving is bad advice. And additionally, we think that advice may actually help people. So it's a weird double jeopardy situation. I don't actually know what that means, but it's the reality where people are not eating enough protein, and the advice is maybe making them feel better about that. But we've learned from fitness coaches, doctors, nutritionists, that 1 gram of protein per ideal pound of body weight is the kind of target.
Yes.
And again, we're not looking for perfection here, but what we're looking for is, if we're shooting for that goal, a lot of the other macros that we need to have tracked and or dialed in tend to follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if you start with protein, everything else tends to fall in place nicely.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, so 1 gram per ideal pound of body weight, that's sort of the number you're looking for. So I'm going to use my weight and desired protein intake.
Please tell us how much you
for
weigh.
A recommendation for people so they can really know what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anyone confused. This is back to basics. This is clear, and I'm okay to talk about it because I'm a man, and I guess that's fine for men. I weigh, on a good day, 160 pounds.
On a good day, meaning you want to see that scale tip a little higher.
I'd like to weigh a little bit more. I'm probably 163. We've been gaining some muscle lately.
Bulking.
Yeah,
at
oh yeah,
163.
we're crushing. Anyways,
That's cute.
I'm about 6 foot tall, I weigh about 160, 165, and I strive for about 170, 175 grams of protein per day.
Why are you trying to up it? Just because you're in a bulking phase?
It's just a current desire right now to get stronger.
Okay.
So I'm kind of walking into hunting season. I'm going to be dragging deer. I'm going to be hiking through the woods. I'm not training for any marathons. This is my current objective. That is what I want to do. I'm going to be carrying a bow around, a lot of gear, and being a little bit stronger and having more muscle is what I'm currently working towards. So 170, 175 is kind of what I'm going for. So I want to put muscle on. I want to build muscle. Therefore, I have to have a lot of protein to deal with that. I'm also lifting weights, and I am eating plenty of other food as well, but I am absolutely prioritizing protein.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're building out a number for yourself, it goes the same for if you're trying to cut back. So if your ideal weight is not like mine, men out there may resonate. Same with women. But on the flip side, if you're a man and you're looking to lose weight, or a woman, you may want to prioritize that protein a little bit less than what your body weight is. Okay, but it should still be the ideal weight. So if you are 160 pounds and you want to be 140 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
then you should be eating 140 grams of protein.
Totally.
It's not that if I eat 10 grams of protein, I'm going to lose more weight. It's not how it works. Building muscle allows you to metabolize more energy, more carbs, more quickly and more effectively, more efficiently. Therefore, your body's going to, I'm using air quotes when I say this, burn fat. There's no real like fat burning reality, right? It's called energy storage, and muscle burns that energy. So not building muscle and just cutting back calories in a nutshell will eventually make you lose weight, but you'll be unhealthy. Mm-hmm. So build muscle, eat protein, be healthy. Your body needs it.
You have to eat muscle to build muscle. So you got to eat animal source protein.
Totally.
It's that simple.
So let's talk about protein now. Where do we find it? And let's start with breakfast.
Let's start with breakfast. So many people crack an egg or two into a pan and they're like, yo, I'm eating a high protein breakfast. And I'm like, no, you're not. That's 12 grams if you're having 2 eggs, 6 grams of protein per egg. Now, an egg has a lot of other wonderful qualities, lots of nutrient density in both the yolk and the egg white. So I'm not anti-egg. But if you're going eggs, you should be hitting like 3 to 5 eggs. And then you can call that high protein, 3 to 5 eggs per person. Okay, so don't crack 5 eggs into a pan and then dish it out to your like 3 kids and be like, okay, we're good to go.
And you're being spicy about this because we feel passionate about this situation because we know too many people in the world that they eat breakfast, and there's kind of these common breakfast foods that you'll see like cereals and oatmeals and muffins and crepes and pancakes and waffles and things that are literally the opposite of starting your day with any kind of protein. If you're trying to hit those protein goals, which we recommend that you do for weight gain and weight loss and just general health, starting your day and continuing your day and starting your meals with protein is so beneficial and so helpful. And so many foods, the reason why they're not that way is because they can be mass produced. They're cheap because of the mass production. And then they're sold to you as breakfast food because they don't want to just sell them as desserts only, because then they're not going to be tapping into all the different markets that they could possibly tap into to sell more.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what's occurring. So when Kellogg's comes out with a cereal line and granola and pancakes and whatever else, it's because if they sold this all as dessert, they would be selling way less.
Not to mention when the CEO of Kellogg's came out and said, yeah, I feel like the economy is in a hard spot, so start eating our cereal for breakfast. I was highly offended.
It's cereal is a terrible breakfast food.
Terrible dinner food as well.
And protein, and knowing how much protein is actually in your meal. If you're eating 2 eggs and you're not getting massive amounts of protein, I just wanted to say this because you were being very aggressive, is okay. Okay. That's a great start.
I have more to say on it, so keep going.
That's a great start to have a couple eggs in the morning. And again, we're going back to basics here. So tracking your protein number, and it might mean that getting away from the muffin and going for the eggs is the major jump. And I don't, while I eat, when I make eggs, like 4 eggs to myself, a lot of people don't want to do that.
I personally don't want to do that. So this is what I was going to say. If you're hitting your protein by egg alone, yeah, you have to up it up to that like 3 to 5 eggs, which is a lot. Honestly, I don't like eating that much egg. the way I can get my protein in the morning, which I honestly haven't even done a good job of that yet today. I need to work on that. But I combine an egg, a cheese, and some kind of meat. When I hit all of that kind of like trifecta of the savory breakfast, then I can get closer to my 30 grams of protein per meal.
Totally.
So if I do 2 eggs and maybe I scramble them, I put them in a tortilla, I do, like an ounce of shredded cheese, and then I do like a couple slices of bacon, which is 3 grams per slice, or I do like a sausage patty or a couple links. Then I can start to build on top of that because I don't like eating a big plate full of eggs. I could also pair that easily with a high protein yogurt and hit an even higher protein count. What I will also say, kind of going back, making sure we are hitting that back to basics, is that perhaps the number one thing you can do for your meal protein planning is just download the app MyFitnessPal and type things in the search bar and learn how much protein is in each food per serving.
Yeah.
Because the second you start to catalog that information in your brain, then you can start to build out a meal plan. Because I think a lot of us walk around with these assumptions about how much sugar is in something or how much protein or how much fat. And they don't realize, like, cheese, for example. Yeah, everyone is like, this is a high protein snack. Actually, it's a high fat snack with a little bit of protein, which nothing wrong with that. But having an accurate picture of the macronutrients in the food you're eating is really the ground zero that we need to start. And perhaps we should have started the show with that. So MyFitnessPal is a great free app. I think there's a Chronometer and there's other apps too you can do. I've just personally used MyFitnessPal for years and years and years. And if anything, you don't have to track your food if that's not something you're into. But if anything, just start looking foods up and learning. They have a wonderful database. So if you want to do that, and then, like I said, stacking on your protein sources. So it doesn't have to all come from eggs. It doesn't have to all come from sausage. But I like the trifecta. And then, yogurt has been such a game changer for us. Because it's quick, it's easy, there's no cooking, we don't have to prepare.
Look up online Cultured Guru, and you can make yogurt with the recipe that she's made with leftover milk that you have, and get in the yogurt game. Or this is where you could introduce, again, we're still talking about breakfast right now, you could introduce a convenience item, gasp, right? If you wanted to purchase things that were processed for you, packaged, yogurt's a great one. It's like as close to a whole food, I believe, as you can possibly buy that is a processed food. Yogurt's a processed food if you buy it, right?
Yogurt and
pre-made
cottage
cheese, yogurt. So Painterland Sisters, we've had them on the show. They make yogurt. They're sold in a number of stores around the U.S. We find it at Trader Joe's and Fresh Thyme, I believe.
I don't know if Trader Joe's has it.
Fresh Thyme.
Fresh Thyme has it.
Whole Foods.
Fresh Market has it. Sprouts has it. I don't believe Whole Foods
doesn't have it?
No,
okay.
I don't think yet.
So
Costco has them.
Find Painterland Sisters yogurt. Also, if you can't find Painterland Sisters, understood. That's like our tier 1. We've eaten Siggy's yogurt.
There's that Icelandic brand.
Okay, you can find a clean yogurt brand. Okay, you're gonna look on the back and say, "Gasp! It's pasteurized. Why are Liz and Joey eating this?" Okay, listen, that's cultured. There's cultures in it, so there is live ingredients that can help you process and break down that food in your gut. Same with raw milk. Those are different things. The process of making yogurt oftentimes has to heat it up. Okay, so just know that going in. Anyhow, make your own yogurt if you can. That's the best for sure. Buying it, but this is going to help you with breakfast for sure. Rip a yogurt, and don't dump tons of honey and granola and things like that into it unless you need to. But remember, we're trying to balance our sugar and protein intakes. And in the morning, the way you start your day, if you can start it with protein and fiber and fat alone, or as close to alone as possible, man, it's going to set you up and get you in a really good mental place and physical place. Okay, so let's just run through because I want to speed this episode up a little bit to ensure that people get through all this information in their short commute to work. The first one is breakfast. Talking about some convenience foods that are going to get you in the game for protein. You mentioned MyFitnessPal, and we're going to reference that throughout this whole episode. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks, whatever. Learning about your food is going to help you make decisions that are as impactful and almost like potent as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have resources also on our website that we've created for this, right? So what's for breakfast and what's for dinner, meal plans and recipe guides that we've created are for this problem. So if you're looking for inspiration, look up recipes, high protein recipes, learn the ingredients, MyFitnessPal. Okay. Breakfast, eggs, meat, yogurt. These things are great ways to start your day. I'm not saying I'm anti-fruit. I'm not anti any of these things. Common pitfalls for breakfast are the protein pancakes. Okay. There are products that are, I'm going to call them greenwash or protein washed or whatever you want to call them, that are out on the market that are just, they're not the play.
We're looking at you, Kodiak. Okay.
They make pancakes. They call them protein pancakes. And if you read the ingredients, even if you're getting like 4 to 5 grams of protein, that's like measly protein, and you're eating like 3 pancakes to get it, you've now consumed how much carbs and how much sugar. I guess this is one and the same, but to get 5 grams of protein, and then you're going throughout your day and you're like, I feel horrible, but I had protein pancakes. No. Okay. So it's the same if you're making a protein shake that is full of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you take protein powder and you put it in ice cream and milk, that is going to spike your glucose, give you a crashing effect, and you're going to build fat and not have enough protein in your diet. Anything else on this before we go on to lunch?
I love that you said protein washing. I think it's a real thing. I think the second you start to, and we'll get into this in the snack category, the second you start to learn the true value of protein in each food, you will see it. Your eyes will be open. So let's move on to lunch.
I'm going to kick it off with my pains so that you can fill it in with all the things that people probably feel more regularly. Going to work, going to the office. If people out there are listening to this and you work in an office, this is, for me, the most challenging thing to deal with. Protein is so tough. Okay. Let's say you go out to eat, and I do not go out to eat very regularly for lunch. Almost never, if I'm honest. I did yesterday, and I ate at a barbecue joint. I had ribs and smoked pork, and I skipped all the sides. So I ate as much protein as I could, and it was the best I could with what I had. Okay. That being said, I didn't order the mac and cheese. I didn't order the common
the corn pudding,
corn puddings and things. I didn't order that.
Good.
I just didn't want it. I had a lot of stuff I wanted to do after lunch that day, and I knew those things were not going to help me.
I would have gotten the corn pudding just for everyone's reference.
But think about common lunch spots for Americans. Okay, if you're not in America, you probably see this maybe a little bit differently, but for America, going to Chipotle, go down that line, name all the things that you're getting in your bowl or your burrito. Okay, tortilla, what do you got there? Carbs. Rice, carbs, right? Keep going down the line. You got vegetables. It's just, it's like you can talk about it being a complete meal if you want to, but look at how they start scooping once you start asking for the chicken, okay, or the pork or the whatever, right? They're going to start scooping a little more hesitantly. It's just how businesses operate. Protein tends to be the most expensive ingredient, and therefore they're going to give you the least of it. I mean, a Chipotle burrito, you might be getting 1,100 calories in a Chipotle burrito. How much that's protein? I don't know the facts. Maybe it's 25 grams. That's a lot of food for 25 grams of protein, right? And so maybe you skip Chipotle, or maybe you just get, a salad with steak or something. Like, there's ways to start to optimize your meals. Now, again, I like to go to the grocery store. I have a kitchen in my office, so I have a lot of benefits there. And so oftentimes I'll make fried rice for lunch. Now, what that looks like for me is like 4 eggs, and like it's almost like a 2-to-1 egg to rice ratio. So my fried rice is not like,
it's like a scrambled egg with a little rice.
It is, but it helps me. I need a little bit of carb too. I can't just eat eggs. And then it allows me to kind of throw some vegetables in there. I like green onions. I like to do broccoli. I'm a big broccoli fan. I don't know why, I just love broccoli. And then again, a gasp. I love soy sauce. I just do. It's the flavor that I really enjoy, and that to me can be a lunch that I can eat. Again, I'm pretty boring. I can eat the same lunch every day, like for a lot of days. So anyhow, that's one way. Ground beef is a great way to cook it up in a pan, some rice, easy money. But anyhow, lunch is challenging. And I want to bring this up because when you start to look at the information of the food that you're eating, the actual macronutrients of it, it's alarming what, kind of protein you're receiving from some of these meals. Talk to us about home lunches.
Home lunches for kids, oftentimes it's a snack plate situation where we do a heavy emphasis on some type of meat, some type of cheese sometimes, not always, and then a vegetable and a fruit. I really try to steer away from chips, crackers, or pretzels, like offering that with a lunch, because kids will just eat that first and then they'll kind of ignore everything else. But like yesterday, I served Applegate's pork and beef, like uncured, really clean ingredient pepperonis and snap peas and some salted cucumber slices. And that was the girls' lunch. Oh, and I also made a smoothie that had some high protein organic plain Painterland Sisters yogurt in it. So I was trying to get some protein in the smoothie, but then also get them the protein in the pepperoni. Great example of like what every day is, but also like sometimes a lunch is a quickly cooked meal. Like I have a pound of ground like moose or venison or beef, and I cook that up as taco meat, and we eat that with like tortilla chips. And the girls love that. They think it's like, nachos. And it's like, really, they're getting like probably 4 ounces of ground cooked meat, which is a lot because they're scooping it, and they're just using the chip as,
A carrier.
a carrier. And it ends up being a pretty high protein meal. I also have been making like tuna salads. I love the Scout tinned fish with the trout, but they've been like sold out everywhere. So if you can get some tinned fish, that's super high protein, really quick, no cooking. Dump that onto a bed of lettuce and add some vegetables. Great. You can get like 30 grams of protein in a very quick, non-cooked lunch. We also do the whole fried rice thing at home. Sophie does that often for herself. Yesterday, Sophia had some chicken tenders that she fried up in a pan, threw in a tortilla with some Caesar salad dressing and lettuce, and made herself a Caesar salad wrap. So we're doing a mixture of like cooking a little bit, but then also like if I'm just in the middle of working or something, making a quick snack lunch. Having those things on hand though, high quality, like quick lunch meats or cured meats is great. Cheese sticks or just a block of cheese you can cut off a slice is great. Again, higher fat, not as much protein, but still going to be nice and satiating. Your kids need fat too, so like give that to them. And then beyond that, like whatever kind of extra, maybe like it's a yogurt or a kefir, like that kind of maybe more like desserty version of protein is also super helpful. So.
I dig it. Common pitfalls I see at lunch. Again, quick review. I see pitfalls of people in the professional world at offices, etc., eating like pizza for lunch, right? So this is just like bread. Let's really boil it down. What are we eating for lunch right now? There's some cheese. There's some cheese, maybe some toppings, but it's like bread. We're eating bread for lunch. I see a lot of people that are they eat bagels or bagel sandwiches, things like this. I see a ton of salads. I'm down for that, but like, where's the protein coming from? So a lot of people are going to eat a salad with cheese on it, right? It's like cheese and croutons, and it's like, that's great, but like, you're not adding to your protein goals with the big salad. So remember, thinking about the protein. Salad will be a little bit better from like it's going to put you at a deficit, but it's not going to like, you're not going to have a major crash typically with a salad. You're just not going to, you're not going to get all the nutrients that you need, and therefore you may be at a deficit.
That's where that tinned fish would be so convenient to just 100%. Open it up and dump it right on.
100%. The other thing that I see are, again, fast food almost always, other than the fact that it's just made with a lot of bad ingredients. If it's the only thing you can get, okay? If it's the only thing you can get, just really be thinking about the protein, okay, gang? So if you're going to go to like a McDonald's or a Wendy, I mean, like, you have to eat. Okay. Yeah. So if you are in this desperation mode, really be thinking about the protein that you're getting. Garbage food can still have protein. I'm not saying go eat a bunch of garbage food, but you can definitely prioritize that. Again, we're going back to basics here. It gets super complex, and we start to get people on this train of, you need to be a homesteader that raises your own cows, pigs, goats, and everything else. There's a lot of people in the world that cannot do that. So protein, getting yourself healthy and building muscle is very important.
I'll tell you what, like the standard quintessential American lunch, especially for kids, is like chips, piece of fruit, and a sandwich. And I would say that is like protein washing, because if you consider the chips, the fruit, and both slices of bread, maybe you have like 2 slices of turkey on that sandwich. You want to, again, make sure you're weighted in the protein direction. So maybe skip the chips on the plate. Maybe just offer the fruit and a couple slices of the meat. And then once they've finished that, you can be like, hey, would you like some fresh vegetables? Something with that. So I think a lot of us, like especially me, like I grew up with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich packed in my lunch with a bag of chips and like a little candy bar as dessert. And like that was my lunch. Like how much protein is in that? Oh, peanut butter. That's a great
Protein-washed food.
Protein-washed food. Peanut butter, nut butters, they're not high protein. Okay, just read the food label and it will tell you there's maybe 3 to 5 grams of protein, but there's then like 6 to 9 grams of fat. So again, it's satiating. It's beautiful. I love eating peanut butter with apple, not anti it. Just don't go into it thinking this is high protein.
Precisely.
So if you're serving a peanut butter sandwich of some kind for lunch, know that that's not working towards your protein goals. Now, if you're going to go run a marathon, eat that all day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Actually, not the fat, because you probably don't want to eat fat
Carbs.
before you. Yeah, just the carbs. Anyway, so those are kind of the lunch pitfalls. And again, like we've done this before. We've served our kids this meal, and then we had the revelation that like, whoa, this isn't as high protein as we thought it was. So let's move on to, do you want to do dinner or snack?
Let's do dinner, then snack.
Okay. Dinner. Talk to me about dinner.
So dinner tends to be the easiest one, because it's the most formal meal. Okay. Doesn't mean that we're not messing it up. Okay, gang. But this tends to be the easiest one for most families. This is when you're busting out the chickens, to cook on the grill. And this is when people are making the burgers and they're making the steaks and they're cooking the fish and they're cooking. So typically dinner is reserved for like the family gathering. It's going to be the most formal meal. You're going to bust out the good meat, right? So, that being said, still focusing and watching it, still important, still something to consider, going back to the basics. I like a protein veggie starch meal for dinner. And what I mean by that is a great dinner for me, again, end of the day, is high protein, a veggie of some form, whether this is, if you're in the summertime, zucchini or squash, wintertime, maybe you're looking at, Brussels sprouts, veggie, these sorts
Parsnip,
of delicate squash. Yeah. And then starch. You can do rice, you can do potatoes, you can do pastas, you can do whatever, right? So these kinds of starch bread, you can do your sourdough at this point as your starch for the meal. Anything else on dinner?
Dinner, yeah, I love the protein veggie starch matrix. What do you call that? Framework. I think that's great. I also think about when you're serving your kids. I had this thought yesterday, actually, talking to someone else, of thinking about when you're serving your kids, how to be able to accurately gauge the amount of protein you're serving to them. And this is one of the reasons I prefer, this is going to sound weird, but like I prefer meatballs to meat sauce for a pasta. And this is a great example, because I know when I'm portioning out my kids' plates exactly how much meat I'm putting on their plate, versus when they're scooping meat sauce out of the pan, they could be dodging that sausage or that meat or that beef.
It's just sauce and noodles.
And so then they're just getting sauce and noodles. And that sounds like really kind of crazy to think about. But as a parent who wants to focus on what my kids are actually eating, not just what's on their plate, think about the ways that it's easier to portion. So actually, like even last night, I made like a homemade like chicken tikka masala kind of vibe, and with chicken tenders. And I was cutting up the tenders, but I was making sure I was counting like, okay, how much of a full tender is on the plate per each kid that I'm serving? Is the meat big enough where I can portion it out in chunks and see it? Soup can often be hard. So sometimes when meat is in a soup, I try to also add other things, like to make it a little bit heartier. Maybe I'll add a bean to it for a little extra fiber and a slight amount of protein. Or some lentils would be great. And so just considering, yes, preparing the dinner, but also like if you're making an enchilada, it's really hard to gauge how much protein your kid actually ate if they're just like scooting around the plate. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So
I had one more thing I wanted to say on dinner. Oh, parents, you've probably found yourself in a position where your child has not finished all the food on their plate. And then you're gonna enter into something. We talked about this with Christine. Again, go back to the episode we did with Nourish the Littles. We did 2 episodes about picky eating and finishing plates. That's going to be a much more complete picture of how you can operate as a parent to nourish your children the absolute best, from behavior to actual ingredients. But let's talk about prioritization, okay? Because you're probably going to get into a negotiation with your child at some point, or you have. Not saying that you should negotiate, okay? I'm saying that maybe you have, and maybe you are going to, and maybe you've got some children that are notorious for not wanting to eat all the food on their plate. When I was growing up, eat your vegetables. This was the prioritization. Because that was what like mainstream media it was vegetables are constantly being avoided and you have to eat them. Okay, I'm not anti-vegetable. Don't hear me say that. I would say let's start a new generation of prioritization, and that being protein. So if your kid's sitting at a plate for a number of reasons, I don't like waste of food at all. It's the worst. But the protein, veggie, starch on the plate, okay? Your kid is likely going to gravitate to the starchy food. So let's start them with a small portion of that so they can get seconds of it if they've finished everything else. That's kind of what I'm doing when I'm making a plate for my kids. And then when they inevitably enter into negotiation mode, it's, hey, finish your protein. All day. All day. And it's now a very common thing within our household that protein is the prioritization of the plate. And it's for 2 things. Again, the nutrient density of protein, especially meat. If they're eating moose meat, there's so much going on there for them. And then 2, it's the most expensive.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about wasting our money, I would rather them throw a little bit of rice in the garbage than moose meat or venison or steak or fish or scallops or whatever it is that we might be eating in our house. So that was kind of my last little thing there with protein.
Yeah, that's really smart. I think that's good. Snacks. Let's talk about snacks really quick. And I'll preface this by saying snacks are optional. You absolutely do not need to offer your kids snacks every day. You don't need to offer multiple snacks every day. The biggest way that you can hone in your protein game if you're starting in the basics is to hit your 3 meals. Okay, so prioritize that before you delve into the realm of what is a high protein snack. I'd rather see you focus on eating whole real food sources of protein in your 3 meals than like trying to Google what the best protein shake powder is. Okay, so just laying that out there, prioritize hierarchy of your needs. Hit your meals first with your protein. Snacks also can be a wonderful opportunity to get some protein in, though, both for yourself and for your kids. Now, this is quite possibly the largest category for protein washing I've ever seen in my entire life, because every snack geared for a kid, they're getting smart. They know that parents are starting to realize that their kids need protein, so they'll put like protein Z-bar, and it'll be like 3 or 5 grams of protein per bar. And you're like, no.
That's full of seed oils and carbs like and sugar.
40 grams carbohydrates.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Again, we're not anti-snacks.
No.
But I think that there is something important about, if I bought this thing, but it's a protein, it's understanding truly what you're looking at. And this is going to require you to read labels and be aware of what you're actually buying for yourself and for your kids.
I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm going to be really transparent. I just recently put in a Thrive Market order. And I had this crossroads moment because it was a larger order. We're about to have a baby. I'm like, let's stock the pantry. Let's get things going. And I had that moment of like, I know my kids really like these good ones chips. They look like a Pringle. It's like potato starch and there's, no seed oils in it and it's pretty good. And should I just get them like the big box of these mini cans of chips? And then I thought, you know what? It was like $14 for maybe 6 little cans. I thought they're going to eat that in one freaking day. And then I saw a beef stick pack for $25 that has like, I don't know, 18 to 20 sticks in it. And they're all probably at least 9+ grams of protein per serving. And I put the beef sticks in my cart and I didn't put the chippies in my cart, even though I know my kids would be like so hyped. And I will say there's this real, maternal instinct of like, you want to feed your kids food that they like, but there is something to be said about if there is an option of a chip or a cracker or a pretzel or a granola bar in the home, it makes grabbing the protein so much harder. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to make sure our house is really well stocked with fresh fruit. I went out that day, went grocery shopping, got grapes, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries were looking fine, even though it's not even in season and they were on sale. So I thought maybe this is like a late season harvest. What's going on here? So I got some of those and I got frozen fruit. And I thought, this is my compromise in my head. As a mom who wants to feed her kids things that they actually love, I'm able to now make smoothies with my frozen fruit, or we make, we call them like mango ice cream, but it's literally just frozen mango and water. So it's like a sorbet. So I can do that, or I can serve fresh fruit along with a beef stick. And that is a better option for a snack for me personally than any of those prepackaged foods. And so, but just, I had that moment of like, oh, I kind of want to buy this for the kids. And then I was like, no, because I said, if I buy this snack, it's not that I don't want my kids to eat that chip. It's that will then jeopardize them eating the other real food. It's crazy.
Yep.
So
back to basics, friends. This is a shorter episode. This is actually longer than I was expecting it to be. And we'll probably trim some of them even shorter in the future. There's a lot going on here. Friends, shout outs here to Culture Guru for yogurt recipe. Don't forget about that. She's on Instagram. You can find her blogs all over the internet. Then we have resources for you for this as well. We have meal plans that you can look up to help you with this. That is in what's for dinner and what's for breakfast. And the Real Food Framework will help you think differently about your protein as well. Crunchy Fitness Coach. Her name's Kelsey Moore, I think, on Instagram. Go hit her up. She talks about this kind of stuff all the time. And you can message her and she'll probably give you a trillion different ways to support your protein goals and your fitness goals, by the way. So hit her up. And if you want to hear more from us, we're on Instagram as well. I'm at Joey Hazelmar, Elizabeth is at Liz Hazelmar, and at homegrown_education. Shoot us a message if you have any questions about what we're eating that day and or what some inspiration for you might look like in your journey towards a better, balanced, protein-rich diet. Till next time, friends, that's a wrap.